The war had lasted 1,000 years. 1,000 years of death, fire, and hatred between two mighty races. The Zephyrian Empire ruled half the galaxy with their crystal ships and energy weapons. The Korthic Confederation controlled the other, half with their metal warships and plasma cannons. Between them lay a strip of dead space filled with the bones of 1,000,000 battles. Commander, Zekthar stood on the bridge of his Zephyrian dreadnought, the Starlight Eternal. His blue skin was marked with the ritual scars of a career warrior. His forearms moved quickly over the control panels as he watched the enemy fleet through the main screen. Across the void, a Korthic battle group waited in formation. Their ships looked like flying fortresses made of black metal and glowing red lights. "Status report," Zekthar said to his crew. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed the weight of centuries of war. 37 ships ready for battle, Commander," replied his second-in-command, a young Zephyrian named Ulara. "The enemy has 42 vessels. Their flagship is the Bloodfang, commanded by War Chief Gorak the Terrible." Zekthar knew that name well. Gorak had destroyed 3 Zephyrian colonies and killed over 1,000,000 civilians. This battle at the Nexus Gate would decide who controlled the most important hyperspace route in the galaxy. The winner would have a clear path to attack the enemy's homeworlds. On the Korthic flagship, War Chief Gorak studied his battle plans. He was massive even for his race, standing 9 feet tall with gray-green skin as tough as armor. His tusks were carved with the names of every Zephyrian ship he had destroyed. His red eyes burned with hatred as he looked at the crystal ships of his enemies. "The coward Zephyrians think their pretty ships can protect them," Gorak growled to his warriors. "Today we show them the power of Korthic steel. Today we end their reign of terror in this sector." His crew roared their approval. They had been fighting the Zephyrians since they were children. Many had never known peace. War was all they understood. The battle began at exactly 1400 hours, Galactic Standard Time. The Zephyrians attacked first, their crystal ships moving like dancers through space. Beams of pure energy lanced out from their weapons, striking the Korthic formation. The enemy ships returned fire with massive plasma cannons that could melt through a planet's crust. Space filled with fire and death. Ships on both sides exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The Starlight Eternal shook as Korthic plasma bolts struck its shields. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported a crew member. "We're losing atmosphere." "Seal it off," Zekthar ordered. He watched as another Zephyrian ship, the Crystal Dawn, broke apart under enemy fire. 300 crew members died in seconds. All ships, focus fire on their flagship, take down Gorak. The remaining Zephyrian vessels turned their weapons on the Bloodfang. The massive Korthic ship's armor glowed white-hot under the assault, but it held. Gorak's ship fired back, its main cannon destroying 2 more crystal ships with a single shot. "Damage report," Gorak demanded as his ship shuddered. "Under enemy fire." "Forward armor at 60%, his weapons officer replied. "Engine room reports power fluctuations." "We're losing ships fast, War Chief." Gorak looked at the battle display. Half his fleet was gone. The Zephyrians had lost even more, but they were faster and harder to hit. At this rate, both fleets would be destroyed within the hour. "All ships ramming speed," Gorak ordered. "If we die today, we take them with us." The surviving Korthic ships charged forward, trying to crash into the enemy vessels. It was a desperate move, but Gorak preferred death in battle to retreat. Several ships managed to ram Zephyrian vessels, creating massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Commander Zekthar watched his fleet dying around him. The Starlight Eternal was badly damaged. Half his crew was dead or wounded. The bridge reeked of smoke and blood, but still the battle continued. "Sir, we're receiving a message," Ulara said. "It's from the Galactic Council." "Put it through," Zekthar ordered. A hologram appeared on the bridge. It showed Elder Voss, the ancient leader of the neutral worlds. His species, the Arcany, had tried to make peace between the two empires for centuries. Commander Zekthar, War Chief Gorak, you must stop this madness, Elder Voss said. His voice was weak with age, but his words carried authority. Both your fleets are destroyed. Millions. Are dead? For what? Another few star systems that will be worthless ruins when you're done fighting over them. On the Bloodfang, Gorak spat on the deck. We do not take orders from neutral cowards, old one. The Zephyrians started this war. We will finish it. The Korthaks are the aggressors, Zekthar replied coldly. They have attacked our peaceful colonies for 1,000 years. We fight only to defend ourselves. Elder Voss sighed. You both say the same things your ancestors said 1,000 years ago. Look around you. Look at your burning ships and dead crews. Is this worth it? Is any of this worth it? The battle had paused as both commanders listened to the old Arcany. Around them, the wreckage of dozens of ships drifted in space. Escape pods fled the battle zone, carrying the few survivors away from the carnage. I offer you both one chance, Elder Voss continued. Come to Arbitros Prime, meet in neutral space. Talk instead of fight. End this war before it destroys both your peoples. Zekthar looked at his tactical display. He had 12 ships left out of 37. All were damaged. His own ship would need months of repairs. Even if he won this battle, he would be too weak to hold the Nexus Gate. Gorak faced the same problem. His fleet was crippled. The Bloodfang could barely maintain orbit. His warriors were brave, but courage could not replace destroyed weapons and dead crew members. What guarantee do we have? Gorak asked. How do we know this is not a Zephyrian trick? The Arcany give their word, Elder Voss replied. We have never broken a promise in 10,000 years of galactic history. Come to Arbitros Prime, bring your best diplomats and your finest guards, talk with your enemies face to face. Find a way to end this endless killing. Both commanders were silent for long minutes. Around them, their officers waited for orders. The decision would affect the fate of trillions of lives across the galaxy. Very well, Zekthar said finally. The Zephyrian Empire will send representatives to these peace talks. But we will not show weakness. Any Korthak treachery will be answered with force, Gorak growled deep in his throat. Every instinct told him to continue fighting. But his practical mind saw the truth. His fleet was finished. His people needed time to rebuild and rearm. The Korthak Confederation agrees, he said through gritted teeth. But we make no promises about peace. We come only to hear what the crystal lovers have to say. Elder Voss nodded sadly. It is a beginning. Withdraw your fleets from the battle zone. Send your ambassadors to Arbitros Prime within 1 standard month. May the cosmic winds guide you both toward wisdom. The hologram faded. For the first time in 1,000 years, the guns fell silent in the Nexus Gate system. Both fleets slowly pulled back from each other, their crews treating wounded and counting dead on Arbitros Prime. Elder Voss walked through the halls of the Great Council Chamber. The ancient building had hosted peace talks for dozens of wars over the millennia. Its walls were covered with treaties and agreements from across the galaxy, but none had been as important as this one. The preparations would take weeks. Both empires would need time to choose their representatives and travel to the neutral world. Security would be massive, as neither side trusted the other. The risk of assassinations and sabotage was enormous. Elder Voss knew the odds of success were small. The Zephyrians and Korthaks had been enemies for so long that hatred was part of their very cultures. Children grew up learning to fear and despise the other race. Songs and stories celebrated the deaths of their enemies. How could such deep wounds ever heal? But the alternative was worse. If the war continued, both empires would eventually destroy each other. Billions would die. Entire worlds would be burned to ash. The galaxy would never recover from such devastation. 3 weeks later, the delegations began arriving at Arbitros Prime. The Zephyrian ships came first, their crystal hulls gleaming like jewels in the system's twin suns. Ambassador Veltar led their group, a diplomat known for his brilliant mind and silver tongue. He had negotiated dozens of trade agreements and border disputes for the Empire. The Korthak fleet arrived 2 days later. Their black warships looked menacing even in the peaceful system. War Commander Thok commanded their delegation. Unlike most Korthic military leaders, Thok had studied politics and economics as well as warfare. He understood that victory in battle meant nothing if your civilization collapsed afterward. The two groups settled into opposite sides of the capital city. Heavily armed guards from both sides patrolled their areas. The Arkani security forces worked day and night to prevent any incidents that might spark renewed fighting. Ambassador Veltar studied intelligence reports in his suite at the Crystal Palace Hotel. The Korthaks had brought their best military minds and most skilled negotiators. This would not be easy. His own team included experts on Korthic culture, military historians, and economic analysts. "What do we know about War Commander Thok?" Veltar asked his aide. "He's different from most Korthak leaders," the aide replied. "He actually reads books instead of just smashing things. His war record is impressive, but he's also shown interest in post-war reconstruction. Some think he might actually want peace." Veltar was not convinced. The Korthaks had used peace talks before as opportunities to spy on their enemies or buy time to rebuild their forces. This could be another trick. In the Korthak compound, War Commander Thok faced similar doubts. The Zephyrians were known for their cunning and deception. They might be planning to use these talks to gain some advantage in the war. "The Crystal Lovers are up to something," growled General Mock, Thok's military advisor. "We should be preparing for battle, not wasting time with words." "Words can be weapons too," Thok replied. "If we can end this war through negotiation, we save Korthic lives. Is that not worth trying?" As the date for the first meeting approached, tension filled the air of Arbitros Prime. Citizens of dozens of neutral worlds watched the news feeds, hoping for peace but fearing renewed war. The stakes could not be higher. Neither the Zephyrians nor the Korthaks knew that deep space monitoring stations had detected something strange in recent weeks. Long-range sensors had picked up unknown energy signatures from an unexplored region of the galaxy. The readings did not match any known technology from either Empire or any of the neutral worlds. The signals came from the direction of a small, spiral arm that no one had bothered to explore fully. It was considered empty space, too far from major trade routes to be valuable. But now something was out there, something that used technology unlike anything in the galactic databases. Elder Voss had received the reports but decided not to share them with the peace negotiators. The talks were fragile enough without adding new mysteries and potential threats. Whatever was out there could wait. Right now, ending the 1,000-year war was more important than investigating unknown signals from empty space. He had no way of knowing that this decision would soon change everything for both empires and the entire galaxy. The peace talks had been going on for 2 weeks. Ambassador Veltar and War Commander Thok met every day in the Great Council chamber. Surrounded by their advisors and guards, progress was slow. Every small agreement took hours of debate. Neither side trusted the other. The main issues were territory and resources. The Zephyrians wanted the Korthaks to give up 3-star systems they had captured 50 years ago. The Korthaks demanded access to the crystal mines in Zephyrian space. Both sides claimed the other had started the war and should pay for damages. Elder Voss watched from his seat at the head of the great table. The ancient Arkani had seen many peace talks fail over the centuries. He could sense the deep hatred between the two races. Every word was carefully chosen. Every gesture was watched for signs of weakness or deception. "The Korthic Confederation cannot accept these terms," Thok said firmly. "You ask us to give up systems our warriors died to? Defend. Our people will never agree to such dishonor." "Those systems were stolen from us," Veltar replied coldly. "Korthak raiders attacked peaceful colonies and murdered innocent civilians. Justice demands their return." "Justice?" Thok slammed his fist on the table. "Where was justice when Zephyrian ships bombed Korthic nursery worlds? When your energy weapons burned our children to ash?" The room fell silent. Both sides had committed terrible acts during the Long War. Neither could claim to be innocent. The weight of 1,000 years of death and suffering hung over the chamber like a dark cloud. "Elder," Voss was about to speak when alarms began ringing throughout the building. Red lights flashed on the walls. Security guards rushed into the chamber. Their weapons ready? What is happening? Veltar demanded. Unknown ship detected in the outer system, reported Captain Dex of the Arcany Security Force. It appeared without warning. Our sensors cannot identify its origin or technology. On the main screen, an image appeared. The ship was unlike anything in the galactic databases. It was roughly cylindrical, with a white and blue hull marked with strange symbols. It looked primitive compared to the sleek crystal ships of the Zephyrians or the armored fortresses of the Cortex. It's so small, observed Lieutenant Kira, one of Veltar's military advisors, no larger than a courier vessel. What threat could it pose? War Commander Thox studied the image carefully. Never underestimate an unknown enemy. Small ships can carry powerful weapons. This could be a scout for a larger fleet. Both delegations moved to the command center where Arcany officers tracked the mysterious vessel. Long-range scanners tried to penetrate its hull and systems, but the readings made no sense. Technical analysis complete, reported the chief science. Officer, the ship appears to use some form of reaction drive for propulsion. Very primitive, but our scans cannot penetrate its hull. The material is unknown to our databases. Reaction drive? Veltar looked puzzled. Who still uses such ancient technology? Even the oldest civilizations gave up chemical rockets thousands of years ago. The unknown ship continued toward Arbitros Prime at a steady pace. It made no attempt to hide or change course. Whatever its purpose, it seemed confident and unafraid. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. The signal is in multiple languages, including Basic Galactic Standard. Put it through, Elder Voss ordered. A new voice filled the command center. It spoke with a strange accent, but the words were clear enough. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the United Earthship Endeavor. We are explorers from a world called Earth. We detected energy signatures from this system and came to investigate. We mean no harm to anyone. Permission to approach your world for peaceful contact? The silence that followed lasted nearly a minute. Everyone in the command center stared at each other in confusion. Earth? No one had ever heard of such a world. The galactic star charts showed no inhabited systems in the direction the ship had come from. Respond, Elder Voss said finally. Tell them they may approach, but slowly. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction. The reply came quickly. Understood, we're coming in nice and easy. Looking forward to meeting you folks. Folks? What did that mean? The translation computers could not provide a clear definition. It seemed to be some form of casual greeting. Within hours, the situation became more complicated. Zephyrian and Korthak warships had detected the unknown vessel and moved to intercept it. Neither empire wanted a potential threat near their peace delegations. The Endeavor found itself surrounded by some of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. Zephyrian crystal destroyers took position on one side. Korthak battle cruisers formed up on the other. Their weapons were powered and ready to fire. Any normal ship would have been terrified. The combined firepower aimed at the small vessel could destroy a small moon. But the Endeavor continued on its path without changing speed or course. This is Admiral Korvex of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy, came a harsh transmission. Unknown vessel, you will stop immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your destruction. This is War Admiral Gresh of the Korthak. Fleet, followed another message. Alien ship, you are in violation of our security zone. Surrender now or face the consequences. The response from the Endeavor was calm and polite. Hey there, Admiral Korvex and War Admiral Gresh. Captain Chun here. We're just peaceful explorers. No need for all the big guns. How about we all take a deep breath and talk this through? Both admirals were stunned by the casual response. No one spoke to fleet commanders in such a relaxed manner. It was either supreme confidence or complete ignorance of the danger. Captain Chun, Admiral Korvex said slowly, you are surrounded by 43 warships capable of sterilizing planets. Do you understand the situation you are in? Oh, we see your ships, Chun replied cheerfully. Very impressive designs. Our sensors are getting some interesting readings from your power systems. Mind if we ask what kind of energy source you're using? We're always curious about new technology. War Admiral Gresh nearly choked on his own tusks. The alien captain was asking technical questions while having enough firepower pointed at her to crack a continent. Either these humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Perhaps we should let them land, suggested War Commander Thok. If they truly are peaceful explorers, we might learn something useful. If they are spies or advanced scouts, we can capture them for interrogation. Ambassador Veltar was less certain. Unknown aliens arriving during our peace talks? This seems too convenient to be coincidence. They could be working for someone who wants to disrupt the negotiations, Elder Voss made the decision. Let them land, but under heavy guard. I want to meet these humans face to face. Something about them intrigues me. The Endeavour was escorted to the main spaceport of Arbitros Prime by dozens of fighters and patrol ships. Crowds gathered to watch the landing. It was the first contact with a completely unknown alien race in over 200 years. The ship settled onto Landing Pad 7 with a gentle thrum of engines. It was even smaller up close, perhaps 200 feet long. The hull showed signs of wear and repair, suggesting it had traveled a very long distance. A boarding ramp extended from the ship's side. Security forces from all three powers, Arkany, Zephyrian, and Korthak, surrounded the vessel with weapons ready. Armored vehicles and energy cannons were aimed at the landing pad from multiple directions. The first human to emerge was a woman of medium height with dark hair tied back in a simple knot. She wore a blue uniform with various patches and insignia. Her movements were confident and relaxed, despite being surrounded by enough firepower to level a city block. Wow, Captain Chun said as she looked around. Quite the welcoming committee. Are we expecting trouble, or is this normal procedure? For first contact? Behind her came 5 more humans, 3 men and 2 women. They all appeared to be in their 30s or 40s, with the calm bearing of experienced professionals. They showed no fear or concern at their situation. Elder Voss stepped forward, flanked by honor guards from multiple species. I am Elder Voss of the Arkany Council. Welcome to Arbitros Prime, Captain Chun. Forgive the heavy security. But your arrival during sensitive peace negotiations has made everyone nervous. Peace negotiations? Chun looked interested. Between who? The Zephyrian Empire and the Korthak. Confederation have been at war for 1,000 years, Voss explained. We are attempting to negotiate an end to the conflict. The humans exchanged glances. One of them, a bearded man with sergeant's stripes, shook his head sadly. 1,000 years? That's a hell of a long time to be fighting. What started it? The question was so simple and direct that it caught everyone off guard. War Commander Thok and Ambassador Veltar had just spent 2 weeks arguing about historical grievances. The reasons for the war went back dozens of generations. It's complicated, Veltar said finally. There are territorial disputes, resource, conflicts, cultural differences, and centuries of accumulated grievances. Ah, said another human, a woman with lieutenant's bars. So nobody really remembers why it started, but everyone knows they hate each other. We've seen that before. The casual way she discussed a galactic war that had killed billions of people shocked the assembled diplomats. These humans talked about it like it was a minor neighborhood dispute. Captain Chun, Admiral Korvac said sternly, what is your purpose here? What do you want from our civilizations? Chun shrugged. Honestly, we're explorers. We detected some unusual energy readings from this direction and came to check them out. Turns out to be your war, from the looks of things. We're just curious about what's out here in this part of the galaxy. What part of the galaxy are you from? Asked War Commander Thok. Our star charts show no inhabited systems in the direction you traveled. Earth is about 12,000 light-years that way. Chun pointed toward a section of sky that galactic maps labeled as empty space. We're from a spiral arm nobody seems to have explored yet. Kind of surprising, actually. We Figured someone would have found us by now. 12,000 light-years. The distance was staggering. Even the fastest ships in the Zephyrian or Korthic fleets would take months to cross such a distance. How had this primitive-looking vessel made such a journey? Your ship appears to use reaction drives, observed the Arcany science officer. How did you travel such a distance with chemical propulsion? The humans looked at each other and started laughing. Not angry or mocking laughter, but genuine amusement. Chemical propulsion? Shun wiped tears from her eyes. Oh, that's good. No, we use a quantum displacement drive. The exhaust you're seeing is just from our maneuvering thrusters. Quantum displacement? The term was completely unknown to galactic science. The theoretical physicists in the crowd began whispering excitedly among themselves. Would you be willing to share technical information about your drive system? Asked Elder Voss. Such knowledge could benefit all our civilizations. Maybe eventually, Chun said diplomatically. We'd need to learn more about your cultures and governments first. Our people are careful about sharing advanced technology with civilizations that might use it for warfare. The irony was not lost on anyone present. These humans, who claimed to come from a primitive spiral arm, were treating the galaxy's two greatest military powers as potentially dangerous children who could not be trusted with advanced toys. You speak as if your technology is superior to ours, War Admiral Gresh said angrily. Our ships can destroy worlds. What can your tiny vessel do? Chun's expression became more serious. War Admiral, we really hope we never have to answer that. Question, we prefer to make friends, not enemies. But if you're genuinely curious about our capabilities, we'd be happy to arrange a demonstration under controlled conditions. Something in her tone made the military officers present very uncomfortable. It was not a boast or a threat. It was the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous they were and preferred not to prove it. Elder Voss decided to change the subject before tensions could escalate. Captain Chen, would you and your crew like to rest and refresh? Yourselves? We have prepared quarters in the diplomatic compound. Perhaps tomorrow we could continue our discussions in a more formal setting. That sounds great, Chun agreed. We've been in space for quite a while. A chance to stretch our legs on solid ground would be welcome. As the humans were escorted to their quarters, both the Zephyrian and Korthic delegations held emergency meetings. The arrival of these mysterious aliens had changed everything. Who were they really? What did they want? And most importantly, how powerful were they? In the Zephyrian compound, Ambassador Veltar paced nervously in his private chamber. Something about these humans bothers me, he told his advisors. They're too calm, too confident. No one acts that relaxed when surrounded by hostile warships unless they have very good reasons. Perhaps they are simply ignorant of the danger, suggested his military liaison. Their technology appears primitive. They may not understand the power of our weapons? Or perhaps their technology is far more advanced than it appears, Veltar countered. That quantum displacement drive they mentioned is completely unknown to our scientists. What else might they be hiding? In the Korthak compound, similar discussions were taking place. War Commander Thok studied intelligence reports about the human ship and crew. They show no fear, he observed. In my experience, only two types of beings act fearless when outnumbered and outgunned. Fools and those who know they are actually the ones with the advantage. You think these humans are a threat? Asked General Mock. I think these humans are a mystery, Thok replied. And mysteries make me nervous, especially during delicate peace negotiations. Neither delegation suspected that they're mysterious. Visitors would soon become the key to ending their 1,000-year war in a way none of them could imagine. The peace talks resumed the next morning with a new element of uncertainty. The human delegation had been invited to observe the proceedings as neutral parties. Captain Chun and two of her officers sat at a separate table, taking notes and asking occasional questions about galactic history and politics. Ambassador Veltar found their presence distracting. The humans seemed genuinely interested in the negotiations, but they also asked uncomfortable questions. When he explained why the Zephyrians needed to control certain trade routes, Captain Chun had simply asked, "Why not share them? Wouldn't both sides make more money that way?" Such simple questions revealed how complex and twisted the reasons for war had become over the centuries. Issues that seemed vital to galactic security sounded petty and stupid when explained to outsiders. War Commander Thok was equally frustrated. The human lieutenant, Maria Santos, had listened to his explanation of Korthak territorial claims and then asked, "But what do your people actually need from those worlds? Are you using all the resources, or are you just keeping them away from the Zephyrians?" The honest answer was that many of the disputed territories were held for strategic reasons rather than economic ones. Both sides had built military bases on worthless rocks, simply to deny them to their enemies. When viewed through human eyes, it seemed wasteful and pointless. Elder Voss watched the interactions with growing hope. Perhaps these outsiders could see solutions that the warring parties could not. Fresh perspectives might break the deadlock that had lasted for weeks. "Captain Chun," he said during a break in the talks, "your people have observed our discussions for several hours. Do you have any suggestions for resolving these disputes?" Chun leaned back in her chair and considered the question carefully. "Well, Elder Voss, it seems to me that both sides want the same basic things: security for their people, access to resources, and respect from their neighbors. The problem is they're trying to get these things by taking them away from each other instead of working together." "Working together?" Veltar looked shocked. "The Korthaks are barbarians who respect only strength. They would see cooperation as weakness and attack us the moment we lowered our guard." "The Zephyrians are arrogant and deceitful," Thok replied angrily. "They smile and speak of peace while building weapons to destroy us. We cannot trust anything they say." Captain Chun nodded thoughtfully. "So you both think the other side is too dangerous and untrustworthy to work with. But you've been fighting for 1,000 years and neither of you has won. Maybe it's time to try something different." Before anyone could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the building. Security officers rushed into the chamber with their weapons drawn. Emergency lights flashed red on every wall. "What's happening?" Elder Voss demanded. Captain Dex of the Arkany Security Force spoke rapidly into his communicator before turning to address the room. "We have a problem. Long-range sensors detect a large fleet approaching the system. They're not broadcasting identification codes and they're not responding to our communications." On the main screen, tactical displays showed dozens of ships moving toward Arbitros Prime at high speed. The computer identified them as a mixed force of Zephyrian and Korthak vessels, but they were flying in the same formation instead of fighting each other. "That's impossible," War Commander Thok said. "Zephyrian and Korthak ships don't work together. We've been enemies for 1,000 years. Unless some faction from both sides has decided to work together," Ambassador Veltar said grimly. "There are extremists in both our governments who oppose these peace talks. They might have formed an alliance to destroy the negotiations." Elder Voss studied the tactical display with growing alarm. 67 ships total. 31 Korthak vessels and 36 Zephyrian. All of them are warships. "This is not a diplomatic mission." Captain Chun and her officers watched the proceedings with professional interest. Lieutenant Santos was taking notes on a small device while Sergeant Murphy studied the tactical displays with the eye of an experienced soldier. "Captain," Elder Voss said urgently, "your ship should leave immediately. This is going to become a battle zone very quickly. There's no reason for you to be caught in our war." Chun shook her head. "We appreciate the warning, Elder Voss, but we're not going anywhere. Our people don't abandon friends when trouble shows." "Up, friends?" Veltar looked surprised. "Captain, we only met yesterday. You have no obligation to help us." "Maybe not," Chun replied calmly, "but it's the right thing to do. Besides, we're curious to see how this plays out." The approaching fleet entered the outer system and began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that filled the command center was harsh and commanding. "This is Fleet Admiral Zarthok of the Korthak Liberation Front, speaking for the Joint Forces of Freedom. The corrupt leaders meeting on Arbitros Prime have betrayed their own peoples with talk of surrender and compromise. We come to cleanse this shame with fire and steel. A second voice joined the transmission, this one speaking in the refined tones of the Zephyrian nobility. I am High Commander Vilesh of the True Empire Coalition. The weaklings negotiating peace have forgotten the honor of their ancestors. We will remind them that victory comes only through strength. Elder Voss looked around the chamber with despair. Extremists from both sides. They finally found something they can agree on, destroying the peace process. How long until they reach us? War Commander Thok asked. 3 hours at their current speed, Captain Dex reported. Our planetary defenses are strong, but not against a fleet that size. We can hold them off for perhaps 6 hours before they break through. That's not enough time to evacuate the diplomatic compounds, Veltar said. Too many civilians would be caught in the fighting. Captain Chun stood up and stretched casually. Well, this is inconvenient. Sergeant Murphy, Lieutenant Santos, what do you think? Murphy studied the tactical display one more time. Looks like a pretty standard extremist. Coalition, Captain. Mixed fleet? Probably not much coordination between the different ship types? I'd say we can handle it, Santos nodded agreement. The positioning is sloppy. They're flying like a parade formation instead of a combat group. Whoever's in charge of their tactics has more enthusiasm than experience. The aliens in the room stared at the humans in shock. 3 people were discussing how to handle a fleet of 67 warships like it was a minor problem. Captain Chun, Elder Voss said carefully, I appreciate your confidence, but that fleet could destroy every ship in this system. Perhaps you should reconsider leaving while you still can. Elder Voss, Chun replied with a smile, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not planning to run away. We're planning to stop them. Stop them? Admiral Corvex had been monitoring the communications from his flagship in orbit. Captain, your ship is barely larger than a courier vessel. What could you possibly do against a battle fleet? Shun's expression became more serious. Admiral, we really hoped it wouldn't come to this. Our people prefer peaceful solutions to problems. But since these extremists have decided to use violence, we'll have to respond in kind. She activated her communicator. Endeavor, this is Captain Chun. We have a situation developing. 67 hostile vessels approaching with obvious intent to attack civilian targets. I'm declaring Code Yellow protocols. The response came immediately from her ship. Acknowledged, Captain. Code Yellow protocols are now active. All systems are green and ready? Do you want us to move to intercept? Negative. Hold position for now. We'll handle the diplomatic side of things first. War Commander Thok could not believe what he was hearing. Captain, you speak as if your single ship could engage an entire fleet. That's not courage, that's madness. Maybe, Chun agreed. But sometimes a little madness is exactly what a situation needs. 2 hours later, the extremist fleet had entered the middle system and was closing fast on Arbitros Prime. Their intentions were clear from their formation and weapon readouts. They planned to destroy the diplomatic compound and everyone in it. Elder Voss had ordered the evacuation of all non-essential personnel, but there was nowhere near enough time to clear the city. Millions of civilians would be caught in the crossfire. When the orbital bombardment began, the system's defense fleet had moved to intercept, but it was hopelessly outnumbered. 12 Arcany patrol ships and 6 armed merchants could not stop 67 frontline warships. The defenders would die bravely, but they would still die. In the command center, the mood was grim. Ambassador Veltar and War Commander Thok had put aside their differences to coordinate the defense of the compound. Neither wanted to die, but both accepted that they probably would. Our security forces are in position around the building, Captain Dex reported. We have 200 guards with military-grade weapons and armor. If they try to land troops, we'll make them pay for every meter. The orbital defense platforms are powering up, added another officer. They might be able to stop a few ships before they're destroyed. Captain Chun listened to the preparations with interest. When Elder Voss asked if there was anything the humans needed for their own defense, she waved dismissively. Oh, we'll be fine. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to handle this little disturbance before it gets out of hand. Handle it how? Veltar asked. The response was immediate and hostile. Fleet Admiral Zarthok's voice filled the channel with rage and contempt. Unknown alien, this is none of your concern? Withdraw immediately or be destroyed with the other enemies of our peoples. High Commander Velesh added his own threat. Primitive outsiders have no place in the affairs of civilized races. Leave now or face the consequences of your interference. Captain Chun sighed deeply. Well, I tried. Lieutenant Santos, would you please signal the Endeavor? Tell them to activate Code Red protocols. Santos nodded and spoke into her communicator. Endeavor, this is Santos. Captain authorizes Code Red. You are weapons free. Repeat, you are weapons free. Every alien in the command center felt a chill run down their spines. There was something in the way the humans spoke that suggested terrible things were about to happen. On the main screen, they watched as the small human ship began to move. It accelerated smoothly away from Arbatros Prime, heading directly toward the approaching fleet. Its course would bring it into contact with 67 enemy warships. Captain Chun, Elder Voss said urgently, what are you doing? Your ship will be destroyed in seconds, will it? Chun asked calmly. We'll see. The Endeavor continued on its intercept course, showing no signs of fear or hesitation. Long-range sensors tracked its approach as the extremist fleet prepared to swat it like an annoying insect. Fleet Admiral Zarthok opened fire first. His flagship's main guns launched a barrage of plasma bolts that should have vaporized the small human vessel instantly. But something impossible happened. The plasma bolts simply vanished when they got close to the Endeavor. They didn't explode or deflect off shields. They just disappeared as if they had never existed. High Commander Velesh tried next, firing concentrated energy beams from a dozen ships simultaneously. The beams reached the human ship and then faded away like morning mist. The Endeavor continued forward without even slowing down. In the command center on Arbatros Prime, everyone watched in stunned silence as the tiny human ship shrugged off enough firepower to crack a moon. Whatever technology they were using, it was far beyond anything in the galactic databases. Impossible, whispered the Arcany science officer. No known force field can dissipate that much energy without visible discharge. Captain Chain spoke into her communicator again. Endeavor, they don't seem to want to listen to reason. Would you please encourage them to be more cooperative? Acknowledged, Captain. Engaging persuasion protocols. The human ship suddenly changed. Course moving in a pattern that defied everything the observers knew about physics. It accelerated and decelerated instantly, made turns that should have pulped any crew from gravitational forces, and seemed to dance between the enemy ships, like a leaf on the wind. As it moved, thin beams of energy lanced out from hidden weapons. Each beam was precisely targeted and lasted only a fraction of a second, but the effects were devastating. The first Korthic battle cruiser simply stopped working. Its engines went dead, its weapons powered down, and its life support systems failed. The crew had perhaps 10 minutes of emergency air before they would have to abandon ship. A Zephyrian destroyer tried to ram the human vessel, only to find that its navigation systems had been scrambled. The ship spun helplessly out of control, its crew fighting to regain command of their own vessel. One by one, the ships of the extremist fleet were disabled. Not destroyed, not damaged beyond repair, but simply turned into powerless hulks drifting. In space, their crews were alive but helpless, watching as their mighty warships became floating junk. What kind of weapons are those? War Commander Thok asked in amazement. I don't think they're weapons at all, Lieutenant Santos replied. More like very precise surgical tools. We're not trying to kill anyone, just remove their ability to cause trouble. Within 30 minutes, the entire extremist fleet had been neutralized. 67 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been reduced to drifting debris by a single small vessel that looked like it belonged in a museum. Fleet Admiral Zarthok's final transmission was filled with disbelief and terror. What? Are you? What kind of monsters have we encountered? Captain Chain's response was patient and kind. We're not monsters, Admiral. We're just people who believe in solving problems peacefully when possible and quickly when necessary. Your crews are all alive and unharmed. Rescue ships are already on their way to pick you up. Next time, maybe try talking instead of shooting. The communication ended, leaving the extremist fleet to contemplate their failure while emergency vessels moved to collect the survivors. In the command center, the silence lasted for several minutes. Everyone stared at the tactical display showing the disabled enemy ships and the small human vessel that had defeated them all. Finally, Elder Voss found his voice. Captain Chun, what we just witnessed is beyond our understanding. How did your ship do that? Chun shrugged. Technology. Our people have been working on non-lethal ship disabling systems for quite a while. We prefer to capture enemies rather than kill them. When we can manage it, non-lethal? Ambassador Veltar looked at the display showing 67 powerless warships. Captain, you just defeated a battle fleet without firing a single destructive shot. That level of precision and power is ... incredible. It's also terrifying. War Commander Thok added quietly. If your people can do this to our most advanced warships, what else are you capable of? Captain Chin's expression became serious. War Commander, we really hope you never have to find out. We came here as explorers and friends. What you just saw was our way of protecting innocent people from extremists. We'd much rather spend our time learning about your cultures and sharing peaceful knowledge. She paused and looked around the room at the assembled diplomats and military officers. But since we're all being honest with each other now, maybe this is a good time to discuss what comes next. Your 1,000-year war has clearly gotten out of hand. Maybe it's time for some outside help in ending it. The implications of her words hung in the air like a challenge. The galaxy's two greatest military powers had just been shown how utterly outclassed they were by a small ship from an unknown spiral arm. The balance of power had shifted in the space of half an hour. Elder Voss spoke for everyone present. Captain Chun, I think we would very much like to hear what you have in mind. News of the human intervention spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every major news network was broadcasting footage of the disabled extremist fleet and speculation about the mysterious aliens who had ended the battle without firing a single lethal shot. In the Zephyrian capital city of Crystal Spire, Emperor Zekthalan watched the recordings with growing alarm. The ancient ruler had seen many threats to his empire over his long reign, but nothing like this. A single small ship had made his most powerful battle fleet look like children playing with toys. How is this possible? He demanded of his military advisors. Our intelligence reports say these humans come from a primitive spiral arm with no known civilizations. How do they possess such advanced technology? General Vorth, the Emperor's chief military strategist, studied the tactical analysis with confusion. Your Majesty, our scientists cannot explain what they observed. The human ship's defensive systems appear to completely negate energy-based weapons. Their offensive capabilities can disable our most advanced vessels without causing visible damage. Could they be lying about their origins? Asked Intelligence Director Kylax. Perhaps they are advanced scouts for one of the unknown civilizations beyond the galactic rim. Emperor Zekthalan had ruled for over 3 centuries. He had survived 2 civil wars, countless assassination attempts, and dozens of battles with the Korthax. His instincts told him that these humans represented a threat unlike any his empire had faced. What do we know about their home territory? He asked. Very little, Your Majesty, Kylax replied. Long-range probes sent toward their claimed origin point have detected no signs of civilization. Either they are very good at hiding their worlds, or they traveled much farther than they claim. On the Korthak homeworld of Ironfang, similar discussions were taking place. Supreme War Chief Gorak, the Conqueror, had built his reputation on crushing his enemies through superior force and ruthless tactics. The idea that his greatest warships could be disabled by a single alien vessel was deeply disturbing. These humans mock our strength, he growled to his war council. They treat our most powerful weapons like harmless toys. This cannot be allowed to stand. War Marshal Thek, his most trusted advisor, voiced the concerns they all shared. Supreme War Chief, perhaps we should learn more about these aliens before taking action. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of our own. Technology can be captured and studied, Gorak replied. But first we must know if they plan to interfere with our destiny. The Korthek people have fought for dominance for 1,000 years. We will not be stopped by a handful of smooth-talking outsiders. General Mach, leader of the extremist faction, had his own concerns. What if these humans are working with the Zephyrians? The timing of their arrival during peace talks is suspicious. They could be part of a crystal lover plot to weaken our resolve. The idea took hold quickly among the hardline military leaders. Both empires had spent so long fighting each other that the concept of a truly neutral third party seemed impossible. Every action was viewed through the lens of the ancient war. Within the Zephyrian Empire, similar paranoia was spreading. Faction leaders who had opposed the peace talks now claimed that the humans were secretly allied with the Kortheks. Why else? Would they have appeared just as the negotiations were making progress? Think about it logically, argued Senator Valenix during an emergency session of the Imperial Council. These aliens claim to be explorers, but they possess military technology that makes our fleets obsolete. What explorer needs such weapons unless they plan to use them? Perhaps they are planning to conquer both our empires, suggested Admiral Korath. They show their power by defeating the extremist fleet, gain our trust through false diplomacy, and then strike when we are unprepared. Emperor Zekthalan listened to the debates with growing unease. His moderate advisors argued for caution and further study. The military faction demanded immediate action to neutralize the potential threat. Both sides had valid points, but neither offered a clear path forward. The decision was made for him when intelligence reports began arriving from deep space monitoring stations. Long-range scanners had detected energy signatures consistent with human technology moving through hyperspace toward the galactic core. Multiple contacts, much larger than the Endeavor, were heading in the direction of both the Zephyrian and Korthek home systems. "They're coming," General Vorth announced grimly. "Our analysis suggests at least 20 vessels, possibly more. Oh, showing the same exotic energy patterns as the ship at Arbitros Prime." On Ironfang, similar reports were causing panic among the Korthek leadership. Supreme War Chief Gorak called an emergency meeting of his most trusted commanders. "The humans have revealed their true intentions," he declared. "They disable our ships at Arbitros Prime to study our weaknesses. Now their main fleet approaches to exploit what they have learned." War Marshal Thek studied the intelligence reports with professional skepticism. "Supreme War Chief, we don't know for certain that these contacts are hostile. Perhaps they are simply more human exploration vessels." 20 ships is not an exploration fleet, General Mach replied angrily. "It is an invasion force. We must strike first before they can coordinate with their Zephyrian allies." The accusations and paranoia had reached a tipping point. Both empires now believed that the humans were working with their ancient enemies to destroy them. The 1,000-year war that had briefly paused for peace talks was about to become a two-front conflict against an unknown enemy. Secret communications began flowing between hardline factions in both governments. For the first time in a millennium, Zephyrian and Korthek military leaders were talking to each other as potential allies instead of eternal enemies. The alliance was born from desperation and mutual fear. Admiral Korath of the Zephyrian Navy and General Mach of the Korthek fleet met in secret on a neutral trading station to discuss cooperation. "Our peoples have fought each other for 1,000 years, Korath said carefully. "But now we face a threat that could destroy both our civilizations. Perhaps it is time to put aside old grudges. The humans must be stopped before they can establish themselves in our space," Mach agreed. "Their technology makes our ships look primitive. If we fight them separately, we will fall separately." The secret alliance grew quickly as more military leaders joined from both sides. They began sharing intelligence about human capabilities and coordinating their forces for a joint strike. For the first time in galactic history, Zephyrian crystal ships and Korthic battle cruisers would fight side by side on Arbitros Prime. The peace talks had taken on a surreal quality. Ambassador Veltar and War Commander Thok continued their negotiations while secretly communicating with their respective military commands about the human threat. Captain Chen and her team seemed unaware of the growing paranoia surrounding them. They continued to observe the talks, ask questions, and offer suggestions for peaceful solutions to territorial disputes. Their casual attitude only increased the suspicion that they were playing a deeper game. Captain, Elder Voss said during a private meeting, I have been receiving disturbing reports from both empires. There are those who believe your people represent a threat to galactic stability. Chun looked genuinely surprised. A threat? Elder Voss, we're explorers and diplomats. We came here to learn about your civilizations, not to threaten anyone. But your technology is far more advanced than anything we possess, Voss pointed out. Your ship defeated an entire battle fleet without suffering damage. Such power in the hands of unknowns makes many people nervous. I can understand that, Chun agreed. But surely our actions speak louder than our capabilities. We protected innocent civilians from extremists. We could have destroyed those ships and killed everyone aboard, but we chose to disable them instead. Doesn't that suggest peaceful intentions? Elder Voss wanted to believe her, but the political situation was spiraling out of control. Intelligence reports suggested that both empires were preparing for war against the humans. The peace talks that had offered hope for ending the 1,000-year conflict were about to trigger an even larger war. Captain, I must ask you directly. Are more of your ships coming to this region of space? Chun hesitated for a moment before answering. Yes, Elder Voss. When we discovered two major civilizations at war, we called for additional diplomatic and scientific vessels. Our government wants to establish formal relations with both empires. How many ships? Voss asked quietly. 43 vessels total, including the Endeavor. Mostly science ships and diplomatic transports with a few escorts for protection. 43 ships. The number was close enough to the intelligence estimates to confirm the worst fears of both empires. What the humans called scientific vessels and diplomatic transports, the galaxy's military leaders saw as an invasion fleet. The final decision was made in a joint session between Emperor Zektalan and Supreme War Chief Gorak, conducted via secure communication link. For the first time in centuries, the leaders of the two empires spoke directly to each other. The humans cannot be allowed to establish themselves in our space, Zektalan said formally. Their technology gives them too great an advantage. They could dominate both our peoples. Agreed, Gorak replied. We propose a temporary alliance to deal with this threat. Once the humans are driven away or destroyed, we can return to our traditional disputes. The irony is not lost on me, Zektalan observed. Our people's first cooperation in 1,000 years is to fight a common enemy who claims to want peace. Perhaps that is exactly what they are counting on, Gorak suggested. Divide us through false diplomacy, then conquer us while we fight each other. The alliance was formalized within hours. Military commanders from both empires began coordinating their forces for the largest joint operation in galactic history. Over 800 warships would converge on the approaching human fleet and destroy it before it could reach the core systems. Admiral Karth was placed in overall command of the Zephyrian forces, while General Mach led the Korthic contingent. Despite their people's ancient hatred, both officers were professionals who understood the stakes. Our combined fleet represents the greatest military force ever assembled, Korth said during their final planning session. If we cannot defeat 43 human ships with 800 of our own, then the galaxy is already lost. The humans defeated 67 extremist vessels with a single ship, Mach reminded him. We should not underestimate their capabilities. That is why we brought overwhelming force, Korth replied. No technology is perfect. Even if they can disable our weapons, they cannot disable all of them simultaneously. Some of our ships will get through. The great fleet began moving toward the interception point. A region of empty space between the spiral arms where the human ships would emerge from hyperspace. It would be the largest battle in galactic history, with the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance. On Arbatros Prime, Captain Chun received word of the approaching Alliance fleet through her ship's monitoring systems. Her casual demeanor finally cracked, replaced by resignation and sadness. "Elder Voss," she said during their final meeting, "it appears that first contact has not gone as well as we hoped. Our diplomatic fleet is about to be met by approximately 800 of your warships with obvious hostile intent." "Captain, there may still be time to prevent this," Voss said desperately. "If your ships withdrew to a safe distance, perhaps we could arrange new negotiations." Chun shook her head. "I'm afraid it's too late for that. When someone points 800 guns at you, retreat tends to be seen as weakness. Our fleet commanders will interpret this as an act of war." "Act of war?" Voss felt a chill of premonition. "Captain, what will your people do?" Chun's expression was grim. "What they always do when threatened, Elder Voss. They'll fight back. And when humans fight back, things tend to get very complicated very quickly." The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. Two ancient enemies had finally found common ground in their fear of humanity. But they were about to discover that there were some battles that could not be won through superior numbers alone. The Battle of the Void, as historians would later call it, began at exactly 1347 hours Galactic Standard Time. The combined Zephyrian-Korthic fleet had positioned itself in a perfect ambush formation, using the gravity shadows of dead planets. To hide from long-range sensors, Admiral Korath commanded the operation from his flagship, the Crystal Vengeance. Around him, 400 Zephyrian warships held their positions in precise formation. Their crystal hulls gleamed with stored energy, weapons charged and ready to fire. General Mach led the Korthak forces from his battlecruiser, the Iron Death. 400 of the Confederation's finest ships surrounded him, their black armor plates scarred from 1,000 battles. For the first time in galactic history, the two great fleets worked as one. "Contact," reported the sensor officer. "Human fleet emerging from hyperspace at the predicted coordinates." 43 vessels confirmed. Through the main viewing screens, both commanders watched as the human ships appeared in flashes of twisted spacetime. They were larger than the Endeavor, some approaching the size of battleships, but they maintained the same simple, functional design that had puzzled observers. "At Arbatros Prime, they don't look like warships," observed Captain Dextar, Korath's tactical advisor. "No visible weapons, minimal armor plating. These appear to be exactly what they claimed, science vessels and transports." "Appearances can be deceiving," Korath replied grimly. "The Endeavor looked harmless too. Prepare to engage." The human fleet had detected the massive ambush force immediately. Instead of fleeing or taking defensive positions, they simply stopped and maintained their formation. No shields were raised, no weapons powered up. They just waited. A communication came through on all frequencies. The voice was calm and professional, with a slight accent that marked the speaker as human. "This is Admiral Lisa Rodriguez of the United Earth Diplomatic Fleet. We are aware of your presence and your intentions. Before this goes any further, I want to make something very clear. We came here in peace. We have no desire to fight anyone. But if you insist on making this a military matter, we will respond accordingly." General Mach activated his own communication system. "Human Admiral, you are trespassing in sovereign space with a hostile fleet. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Hostile fleet?" Rodriguez sounded genuinely puzzled. "Admiral Mach, I presume? Our ships carry scientists, diplomats, cultural specialists, and medical personnel. The only weapons we have are for self-defense. How does that qualify as hostile?" "Your ships defeated our most advanced warships at Arbatros Prime," Admiral Korath interjected. "Don't pretend to be innocent traitors when you possess technology that makes our fleets obsolete." There was a long pause before Rodriguez responded. When she spoke again, her tone was sad but determined. "I see. You've decided that because we can defend ourselves, we must be enemies. Very well. You have 800 ships to our 43. You have the advantage of position and preparation. If you truly believe we are a threat to your civilizations, then by all means attack us. But understand this, what happens next is your choice, not ours. Both fleet commanders felt a chill at her words. There was no fear in the human admiral's voice, no desperation or anger. Just a calm acceptance of what was about to happen. All ships, commence attack, Korath ordered. Focus fire on their flagship. Take down their command structure first. 800 warships opened fire simultaneously. The combined firepower represented the military might of two galactic empires. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles filled the space between the fleets in a display of destructive power that could have sterilized entire worlds. The weapons reached the human formation and simply vanished. Every shot, every missile, every beam of energy disappeared as if it had never existed. The human ships continued to float serenely in space, completely unharmed. Impossible, whispered General Mock. Nothing can absorb that much firepower. Admiral. Rodriguez's voice filled the communication channels again. That was your free shot, gentlemen. Now it's our turn. The human ships began to move. Not in formation like traditional fleets, but as individuals following their own tactical plans. They scattered across the battlefield with impossible speed and agility, their movements defying every law of physics. The galaxy's scientists understood. What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense. It was a systematic dismantling of the greatest military force ever assembled. The human ships didn't fire visible weapons. Instead, they used the same precise surgical strikes that had disabled the extremist fleet at Arbitros Prime. But on this scale, against 800 targets, the effect was devastating. Zephyrian crystal ships found their energy systems cascading into failure. Weapons that had never malfunctioned suddenly refused to fire. Navigation computers scrambled themselves, leaving mighty dreadnoughts spinning helplessly out of control. Korthek battlecruisers suffered different but equally effective attacks. Their armor plating became brittle and began flaking away. Life. Support systems developed mysterious failures that forced crews to abandon their posts. Engine reactors shut down for no apparent reason. This is Admiral Korath to all ships, the Zephyrian commander broadcast desperately. Reform into defensive clusters. Concentrate fire on individual human vessels. Don't let them isolate us. But traditional tactics meant nothing against opponents. Who could ignore physics? Human ships appeared inside defensive formations without passing through the space between. They moved through solid matter as if it were empty void. They accelerated to impossible speeds without creating gravitational distortions. General Mock watched his flagship systems failing one by one. The Iron Death had survived countless battles against the Zephyrians, but now it was being defeated by an enemy he couldn't even target properly. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count," his tactical officer reported. 60% of our fleet is already disabled. The humans aren't even trying to destroy us, they're just making us helpless. Why? Mock demanded. If they can defeat us this easily, why not destroy us completely? The answer came from Admiral Rodriguez herself. Because, General Mock, we don't kill when we don't have to. Your crews are brave soldiers following orders. They don't deserve to die for their leaders' mistakes. Within 2 hours, the Battle of the Void was over. 800 of the galaxy's most advanced warships drifted powerless in space, their crews alive but their vessels completely disabled. The human fleet had suffered no casualties and showed no signs of damage. Admiral Korath found himself aboard the Crystal Vengeance with no power, no weapons, and no engines. His communications were still working, apparently because the humans wanted him to be able to talk. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all disabled vessels," came the human commander's voice. "Rescue ships are already on their way to assist you. Your crews will be safely evacuated and returned to your respective governments. Your ships can be repaired, though it will take considerable time and effort. What do you want from us?" Korath asked bitterly. "You've defeated the combined fleets of both empires. We're at your mercy. What we want, Admiral, is what we've always wanted. Peace, understanding, cooperation, the same things we've been asking for since we arrived at Arbitros Prime. General Mock activated his own communication system from his powerless flagship. You claim to want peace, but you've just proven you can destroy both our civilizations whenever you choose. How can there be peace when one side holds such overwhelming power? The same way there's been peace on Earth for the past 2 centuries, Rodriguez replied. By choosing to use strength to protect rather than conquer. By building institutions that make war unnecessary and unprofitable. Over the following days, as rescue operations continued and the disabled fleets were towed back to their home systems, the political landscape of the galaxy began to shift dramatically. News of the defeat spread quickly. The combined military might of 2 galactic empires had been crushed by 43 human ships without a single death on either side. The implications were staggering. On Crystal Spire, Emperor Zektalon faced a government in crisis. His military advisors argued for continued resistance, while his civilian ministers demanded immediate negotiations with the humans. Your Majesty, Senator Valinux said during an emergency council session, we must face reality. These humans can destroy our civilization whenever they choose. Our only hope is to find a way to coexist with them. Coexist? General Vorth sounded outraged. They've humiliated our empire. Our ships are scrap metal floating in space. How can we coexist with beings who see us as insects? Because, interrupted Ambassador Valtar, who had returned from Arbitros Prime with shocking news, they don't. See us as insects? I've spent weeks observing these humans. They genuinely want to help us build a better galaxy. Similar debates were raging on Ironfang. Supreme War Chief Gorak found his authority challenged by moderate factions who had been powerless during the war years. The humans could have killed every warrior in our fleet, argued War Marshal Vec. Instead, they disabled our ships and rescued our crews. This is not the action of conquerors. It's the action of being so powerful they can afford to be merciful, General Mock replied angrily. They toy with us because we cannot threaten them. The political crisis deepened when Admiral Rodriguez announced that the human fleet would be establishing permanent diplomatic stations in both empires' territories. Not military bases or occupation forces, but research facilities and cultural exchange centers. We're not here to rule anyone, she explained in a galaxy-wide broadcast. We're here to learn from you and to share what we've learned with others. Your civilizations have thousands of years of history, art, science, and culture that we want to understand. In return, we offer our own knowledge and assistance. The offer split both governments down the middle. Hardline factions saw it as the first step toward occupation and slavery. Moderate voices argued that cooperation with the humans offered opportunities their civilizations had never imagined. The crisis was resolved when smaller member worlds within both empires began accepting human diplomatic missions independently. The humans were careful to respect local sovereignty, asking permission before establishing any presence and leaving immediately if asked to do so. Within months, it became clear that worlds with human diplomatic stations were prospering. New technologies were being shared freely. Trade relationships were expanding. Most importantly, conflicts between neighboring systems were being resolved through mediation instead of warfare. Emperor Zektalon made the first formal overture 6 months after the Battle of the Void. He invited Admiral Rodriguez to meet with him personally on Crystal Spire. Admiral, he said during their private meeting, your people have the power to impose your will on the entire galaxy. Why do you choose to ask for cooperation instead of demanding submission? Rodriguez smiled. Because submission doesn't work, Your Majesty. Fear might keep people quiet for a while, but it doesn't make them productive or creative. We've learned that cooperation achieves better results for everyone involved. But surely there must be humans who want to use your power for personal gain, the Emperor pressed. Your species cannot be so different from ours. Oh, we have our share of ambitious individuals, Rodriguez agreed. But our government and military are structured to prevent any one person or group from abusing power. We've learned from our own history of wars and conquests. Supreme War Chief Gorak was more direct when he met with the human Admiral several weeks later. You defeated us completely, he said bluntly. In our culture, the victor takes everything from the vanquished. Why have you taken nothing? Because we already have everything we need, Rodriguez replied. Resources, territory, technology, these things are only valuable if you lack them. We came here seeking knowledge and friendship, not conquest. The transformation of galactic politics accelerated when both empires agreed to participate in a new institution proposed by the humans, the Galactic Cooperation Council. Unlike previous attempts at galactic government, this body would have no military power and no authority to impose its will on member worlds. Instead, it would serve as a forum for discussion, a mediator for disputes, and a coordinator for joint projects that benefited multiple civilizations. Membership was voluntary, and any world could withdraw at any time. Elder Voss was chosen as the first president of the council, with his homeworld of Arbitros Prime serving as the headquarters. Ambassador Veltar represented the Zephyrian Empire, while War Commander Thok spoke for the Korthic Confederation. The humans refused to take a leadership role, instead serving as advisors and technical consultants. Admiral Rodriguez became the human representative, but her position carried no more authority than any other member. We're not here to lead, she explained to the first council session. We're here to help you lead yourselves. Every civilization has unique strengths and perspectives. Our job is to help you share those strengths with each other. The success of the council exceeded everyone's expectations. Within 2 years, over 300